Yo guys, it's JJ here, and today, as you can see by the title of the video, we are going to be going through a LIL DURK POLO G-esque beat, which goes super hard, and of course, you can't really have a cook up unless you're actually cooking up within the kitchen itself. So, without further ado, let's get into this. First of all, I opened up Piano V2, got myself the preset called American Concert, then I came up with this pattern, which repeats, but I'll go through it right now. First of all, we gotta make sure we got our root notes, then copy and pasted it upwards as you guys can see, just to create a nice little bass. I laid down the 7th note that would go towards the chord of said progression. So as you guys can see, this would typically be a minor chord. However, I took out the 2nd note and just placed it in. And then once I laid down this pattern, I decided to add some filler notes, such as here and here. And that's how I got that rhythm going. And then after that, I was like, okay, let me get like a nice little top line going. So once I made that bass piano pattern, as I refer it to, I just started laying down some notes in a very nice rhythm that I enjoyed and came up with this nice little pattern. And then just added a few accent notes to give it a bit more pizzazz on that top end. That's honestly how I came up with this whole melody, and it just repeats every 4 bar. It does the job really nicely, brings that emotional, hard aspect to that little DURK style, that Polo G style. And of course, you know how it be. You gotta click Alt R, randomize your velocity, always give it that human sound, and then click Alt S to give it some strum wherever strumming does occur. With all that being said, this is what the piano sounds like. As for effects, I laid down this EQ, boosted frequencies I liked and didn't like, and of course just getting rid of some general high and low end. Next up, we got ourselves RC20, Vinyl 1 preset, and just took the noise down a bit. That was really all I did. And last but not least, you gotta get yourself some Valhalla vintage verb. Next up, we got ourselves a instance of Omnisphere, and of course, you know how it be, growler moog bass. It will always help with hard beats. It'll always just do that job, and it's my go-to bass, as you guys would know by now. As for the pattern, honestly, just follow the root notes, as you guys can see. Simple as that, not much else to it, and this is what the bass sounds like. And there you have it, that's the bass. It just adds a nice little bit of thick layer to the whole melody, gives it that extra oomph that it needs, fills in that space, and does the job perfectly. Next up, we got ourselves a preset from Expand 2 called Big Soft Strings, and it's in a string spank, of course. I came up with this little pattern, and as you guys can see, these bottom notes are all following the root note, and then all these other notes above it that play at the same time are notes that were played literally within the piano melody itself. So that's how I came up with this little pattern. It's just, when I made the melody originally, you could see the actual piano melody behind it through the ghost notes, and I just layered it on top of that, and then I just raised it up an octave higher because I don't want it to mesh too much of the piano and have clashing frequencies. Last but not least, you gotta click that Alt S for the strum and that Alt R to randomize your velocities. So that being said, this is the string section to it. And there you have it. And as you guys could obviously tell, on the last 2 bars, I just switched up the top line of the melody a tiny bit, just to give it some sort of variation. And when you guys are making these beats, as you guys can already see, pianos, bells, strings, bass, guitars even, like all these are really good for like these little DURK Polo beats. And to be fair, specifically for Polo G, people call him Piano G for a reason. Like the guy just pianos all over his piano, and piano, and piano. As for effects, I honestly didn't really do much to the strings. I just put an EQ cutting down some stuff I didn't like, and by stuff I mean frequencies. Took off some highs and obviously all the lower frequencies. Then I added some reverb to give it a bit more space, fill up the room. However, I used the string kind of like a textural element. It's a bit further back in the mix. And to add to that, as I was saying about being further back in the mix, I stereo separated this like 83% and then panned it a bit to the left there. Next up, we got ourselves another string called Ballad String Pad, and ironically, it's from the string bank in Expand 2. All I did for this was, again, following some notes I found within the chord or that was already played alongside the piano, and just played it at the start of every 1 and 2. And then for a bit of variety, added a little bit to the end out here. It's a bit more of an accent, this kind of string. Does have a bit of space, does the job nicely. And of course, you know, Alt S for your strum and Alt R to randomize the velocity. I can't put enough stress on that. Like, these two things are really, really important for any melody, I'd say, really, because it just gives that human tone. It doesn't sound so robotic and all clicked in. And with all that being said, this is what the string sounds like. And there you have it, guys. That's the strings. As for effects, I literally worked on a very basic EQ, cutting off a lot of the lows and a few of the highs being DURK. And then, of course, some reverb to lay back in the mix, fill in that space. Does the same job essentially as the other strings. Then, what I did to add more to the whole stereoizing and keeping the sound nice and spaced, I added some stereo to it. And as well, that I panned this to the right, so the two strings play separately in your headphones. And I highly recommend you go through this tutorial with headphones on, because you'll really hear how this mix kind of shines through. Next up in the melody, we got ourselves a Choir Woman from Omnisphere, and this was the pattern I laid out. As you guys can see, these are the notes I chose, and then I played like this little bit of a top end to the second half of the 8th bar, just to give it a bit of variation and keep it interesting throughout the melody. And of course, you know, Alt S for strum and Alt R to randomize your velocities. Can't stress that enough. And with all that being said, this is what the choir sounds like. Sounding cold. As for effects, again, just a basic EQ cutting off lows, highs, and something I didn't really like. And then, of course, a heavy reverb, just like, again, it's really far back in the mix and it does the job beautifully. And then, to add to that, keeping it in the back, I just stereoized it a bit. And now, last but not least, we got ourselves a preset from the Palace 808 Mafia Omnisphere Bang. And it's a preset called Keys Intuition, and that's what I used. This was honestly just a top line I came up off the top of my head. I really can't explain how I came up with this. It's just, I came up with it in a spot. I am terrible at this job. Do not fire me, but this is essentially the pattern. And then I just switched it up a tiny bit on the end. All I did was really just take this note up an octave just to change it up a bit. And of course, you know, Alt S for strum and Alt R for your velocities. And with all that being said, this is what the bell sounds like. Or should I say the counter melody. And that's what it sounds like. So, for effects, we got ourselves an EQ cutting off pretty much all the lows that we didn't need. Ducked a few frequencies we weren't a fan of, and a few of the highs got trimmed off. Then we got ourselves some RC20 with the Vinyl 1 preset, and then just ducked the noise down very, very low, giving it that nice little vintage sound. Then, as you guys could obviously hear, I added this little reverb just to give it a bit more stereoizing, makes the sound wider. Again, just adds that little bit spook I feel the delay does, so keeps it nice and interesting. And then of course some reverb to fill that space, and then of course just stereoized it a bit, around like 50%. So with all that being said, and dragging you guys through that pain, you're gonna hear how good this melody sounds like together. So at 129 BPM, E minor, I made this melody, and make sure to listen with your headphones on so you can hear the full effect. This is what it sounds like. And that's the melody, folks. I'm really proud of this, I can't lie. It sounds super nice. I can hear DURK, I can hear POLO all over this. But wait, there's more. So what I did was I rendered out all the sounds out into stems, and I took my BPM from 129 to 144, and then I pitched up the sample by 4 semitones, taking it from an E minor to a G sharp. And now with all that, this is what the final sample sounds like. And there you have it. It's nice, it's faster paced, it allows them to just get that energy, that flow going. I feel like it just does the job super well. So that is the final sample. Now for the drums. First of all, we got ourselves a standard Lex Luger slap clap, giving us this basic black and white pepper stuff over seasoning. As for the clap pattern, I made no sense, but here we go. And that's the clap pattern. Next up for the hi-hat, I kept it very simple. Just add this little bounce by playing with the velocity of it. The reason I kept it this simple is because the sample does so much. You don't want to make the drums go like spaz crazy stuff and it'd be like, ah. So we gotta keep it simple. And this is what the hi-hat sounds like. And there you have it, folks. Now for the 808s. First of all, we got ourselves a nice pattern going. And bear in mind, like the sample got pitched up 4 semitones, we got to pitch the 808 up 4 semitones. Following the new root notes, we got this pattern here. Copy and pasted the pattern over here, and then just add some extra notes just to give it a bit of more of a bounce. That's essentially what the 808 is. And of course, you want to click that Control A and use your scroller wheel to max those velocities out, because your 808s will punch through those headphones, and that's exactly all you want to do. So this is what the pattern sounds like. And there you have it, folks. Next up, of course, with the 808 pattern, we gotta have a kick to complement it, to add that extra oomph, that extra bass, that extra I'm gonna knock your dough down kind of kick. So we got this nice little pattern going here, and of course we max those velocities out. And with all that being said, this is what the kick sounds like. Then last but not least, I added only one extra perk in because I thought it gave it a bit more bounce to the drums. So it's like a little rim, and then what I did was I played with the notes of it and then the velocities, and then just added a little standard rim pattern there. And that's essentially it. So this is what the rim sounds like. And there you have it. Now, with all that being said, you guys are going to hear the full drums together, and here we go. And there you go, guys. That's the drum pattern for you. And of course, you know, as it is, you've made it to the end of the video. I've given you that drum source, that melody source, put that stuff together, and you get super sauce. So, of course, thanks for keeping up with me, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe as per usual. All love, and take it easy. Peace.